Ahoy, mateys! Welcome aboard my podcast. I am Jason with Jay's Paradise Travels. I'd like to thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. Today, I'm going to be relating to you my experience sailing on the Star of the Seas from Royal Caribbean. Their newest ship, as of right now, as I'm recording this, their newest ship, the biggest and probably one of the best out there at sea right now. Very excited to tell you about it and tell you all about my vacation with it. Before I get into it, though, a little bit of housekeeping need to do just to get it out of the way. First off, if you'd like to go on vacation, specifically a cruise, which is my specialty, maybe you'd like to go on the Star of the Seas as well. Hopefully, by the end of this video and this podcast, you'll want to. But if you do, you can reach out to me. I'll be happy to help you with it. There are a couple ways you can reach out to me. One of which is through social media. If you want to follow me on Instagram and or Facebook, my handle is the exact same thing, Jay's Paradise Travels. That's Jays. There's no apostrophe in there. Make it easy for you. Jay's Paradise Travels. You can follow me and send me a message. We can link up that way. Or if you don't want to bother with social media and you just want to email me directly, my business email account is j.paradise.travels@gmail.com. One more time, that is jay.paradise.travels@gmail.com. All right. The housekeeping's out of the way. Let me go and tell you about this experience. Being able to set sail on Star of the Seas, Royal Caribbean's newest ship as of, I'm recording this in February 2026, just got off of it. Our cruise ran from the last week of January, pretty much, on in 2026. And we ported out of Port Canaveral, and we were able to go from Port Canaveral and go down to Coco Key, which is Royal Caribbean's private island. From there, we set sail and went all the way to St. Thomas, St. Martin, and then came back again to Port Canaveral. That was the itinerary. I'm not going to go too much about the itinerary. There's other podcasts that'll go into detail of those stops. Today, I'm not talking about the stops. I'm just mentioning the itinerary. That's what we did. And uh, but the majority of this is going to be about the ship itself. But let me first at least tell you about the experience of going on there, how I got to it, all that stuff. Let me tell you the story. If you notice by now, I'll try to paint a picture of what's been going on, what led me to an event, or what happened while I was there. This vacation started out, I want to say, almost 2 years ago, when some friends of ours, I wanted to go on a cruise with them. They're good friends of ours, and they wanted something a little bit more smaller, a little bit more intimate, not as big. And a little bit more affordable, which is fine. We were just hoping to go on vacation with them. And so they liked Royal Caribbean. They had been on Royal Caribbean before. I had been on Royal Caribbean once many years ago when I was 18. It was one of the first ever cruises that I ever been on. It was on Explorer of the Seas. And I'm not going to do a podcast on that because it was so long ago and I don't have any pictures to show or anything like that. And I have memories of it, but I don't know if I have enough to be able to make a podcast out of it. So, but I have been on Explorer of the Seas. And when we were looking up a cruise to be able to go on together, I found a 5-day cruise that was going to be in December of 2025 on Explorer of the Seas. They were happy with it. I was like, all right, I've been on it before, but I'm happy to do this vacation with them. And that was the one that we were going to go to. And that was what we had planned. Well, they had some unexpected uh, medical bills that came up that needed to be taken care of, and because of that, they weren't able to do the vacation anymore. It's understandable. Things happen, and that's why you get travel insurance for stuff like that, right? Something happens. Well, that was after a little bit of time. We still had some ways to go before December of 2025 was rolling around anyway, because we had planned it in 2024. So I was looking at what do I want to do. We had a few options. We could just straight up cancel and deal with that. We could go on that trip and just go without them, or we could change it to a different trip. Take the money that we put on there and be able to change it to something else because it was definitely far enough in advance. You do have to pay a change fee if you decide to do that, but I was willing to do it. And that's what we ended up doing. And I was looking at two itineraries, and both of them included Coco Key, which is somewhere I wanted to go because I had never been there with Royal Caribbean. I'd been to other private islands, but I hadn't been to Royal Coco Key yet. Um, so I wanted to do that, but I wanted to do that at the beginning of the itinerary, and most itineraries that I saw, it was at the end of it. And I did that because I wanted to be able to give, if I were to go there, go in the water, I wanted to give my bathing suit enough time to dry out before I had to pack it away. So I was looking for itineraries that had Coco Key in the beginning. I had to narrow down to two different itineraries that I had thought of. One of which would have been in the summer of 2025 out of Baltimore, and it was going to go to Coco Key plus Bermuda, which I hadn't been to Bermuda. I would like to go there, so I thought, okay, there's one option, definitely a strong contender there. Or their Star of the Seas, which is their brand new ship. The one that was going to Bermuda was on an older ship. Not that that can't be fun or that can't give you a good time or anything like that, which I'm sure I would have still had a good time. But this one was on a brand new ship. It was going to Coco Key at the beginning, looking forward to that. St. Thomas and St. Martin, which I had been to, but again, it had been many years ago, similar to Royal Caribbean, many years ago. So it's almost like going on it again for the first time, or going there for the first time. And so I was debating, all right, do I want to go? Where do I want to go? Hadn't been to Bermuda before, had been to these places, but going on a brand new ship, even though it was going to cost a little bit more, I just that appealed to me. I wanted to go on a brand new ship, and the biggest one that was going to be out at sea. Icon was biggest. I mean, they're sister ships, Icon and Star, and I think Legend's going to be coming out either later this year or next year, something like that. They're sister ships. They're going to be very similar, but I do think, from my understanding, Star is just a little bit bigger than Icon. So decided to go with that one. All right, we're going on that one, and that's what we decided to do. And made the payments, did all that, got it all taken care of, and and booked a trip with that. So it was the itinerary, as I mentioned, left out of Port Canaveral, and it was leaving on a Sunday, and it was going from Sunday to Sunday 1 week. What we ended up doing was flying down Friday evening after I had gotten off of work. We went to the airport. A friend of ours picked us up, dropped us off. He was a real nice guy. Appreciated him doing that. He also picked us up later on when we got back. Um, we uh, we left down to Orlando, got in the evening. My uncle picked us up, took us over to my grandparents' house, stayed with them, and on Saturday we went. We had a whole extra day. Their friends were throwing a picnic, which we would have gladly went to, but we ended up getting tickets to Universal Studios, which was nice. There's another podcast on that. Free to check out all the other podcasts that are related to this. Anyways, we went to Universal Studios, and then Sunday was the day of the cruise. My uncle was willing to take us to the port too, which is not very far from where they live. They actually it's within like 10, 15 minutes from where we were staying with my grandparents to the port. He was willing to take us there. So, but he had to take us there early. Our check-in time was like 2, I want to say, something like that, 2:30. And we had some other friends that were there that came in on Saturday. They were going on the cruise with us. They stayed at a hotel overnight. They were coming. Their check-in was around, I think, noon or 1 or something like that. Um, and so we were like, well, and this was going to be their first time. So I would have liked to have been there for them, uh, just to kind of help them through that embarkation process. But we were scheduled to go in later. Well, my uncle had to drop us off early. Like, okay, well then we can sit there and wait for them to come. And so we got there, checked our bags with the baggage guys, and then we decided to just stay outside, wait. Took some pictures around the ship. I'm just looking at this massive ship. First time going on it. I was very excited. Now I've been on Mardi Gras, which isn't as big, but still a pretty big ship. So it wasn't like I've never been on a huge ship. MSC Seashore is pretty big too. And I've got podcasts on those. Feel free to check those out as well. But yeah, we're out there just kind of waiting. We're seeing a family with their little kids playing around, and again, we're just kind of waiting. Well, our friend said texted us, letting us know, hey, don't wait for us. You can go on in. And I thought maybe because we had a 2 o'clock and it's not even noon yet, that they were going to have maybe some issues. Some can be kind of picky, like with your times. Others are more laid back. We went up to them; they were super laid back with it. Yeah, come on in. We'll take you in. Cool. All right, let's go. And we went through security, got checked in. Somehow I got like an express lane pass and was able to use that for me and my wife and my dad, which was pretty cool. We got through all of it nice and smooth, nice and fast. It was not like a complicated matter. It didn't take forever, which I really appreciate. And then from there, we start going on the ship, and I just always get so excited uh, going down those corridors and that gangway and all that stuff to get there. And I've lately been taking a little selfie with me and my wife when we get on the ship too. Always enjoy that. But yeah, starting to walk through, and I remember docking next to Icon when we were in Margaritaville at sea and looking over and seeing just the side of it and how impressive it is. Now I'm walking up to the side of it, and here I am going to be going on it. Super excited about it. Couldn't wait. I mean, just in general, I love cruises anyways and going on a cruise anyways. But here I'm going on the biggest one at sea. Super, super thrilled about it. Get on the ship, and immediately as we get in there, we go into it's on deck five, and it's the Royal Promenade. Immediately we're coming there, and I look up, and they have balloons up on the ceiling that they were just up there. They were going to later on release them during the like Bon Voyage party later that evening. But they got music going, and I'm just looking around like, wow, this Royal Promenade is really nice. There's like a Starbucks there. They had a Starbucks on a ship. The first time I'd ever seen a Starbucks. Didn't get anything from there, but it was there. And they had people with these shirts that said "Ask Me," so you could ask them any questions. They could kind of help relate to it. That was nice and friendly. They were nice and friendly about it. We did need to go to customer service for a couple things. Something an issue about my dad that my dad had. Just kind of something with the loyalty member stuff, which they directed it to him. And then I needed to ask him something about one of the shows we try to reserve. They had me go somewhere else. And when we went over there, they explained kind of what happened. One of the shows that we had reserved and was gone. I don't know what happened. Couldn't get another one. They told me that I guess that show had gotten canceled for whatever reason, but they were able to book me for another one. So that was good. Um, I did all that. And then, of course, one of the first things we do when we go on the ship, for the most like 90% of the time, one of the first things we do is we go eat at the buffet, and have a nice lunch there. And that's what we did. It was, again, with me, my wife, and my dad. We were together. We were waiting for our friends. We were waiting for them again. They said go on, so we were kind of keeping in touch with them, and eventually they did come on, nice and easy. We had another friend though that was trying to fly in the day of, and bad weather in Detroit affected his flight, and they just kept getting delayed, 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 delayed. And sadly, he missed being able to get on with us that Sunday. I was pretty bummed about that actually. Kind of affected me going to dinner that night. I was just kind of not in the mood. I was really bummed. Thankfully, though, they did take care of him as regards like putting him up in a hotel. Eventually flying him out to St. Thomas, which is where he was going to meet us a few days later. They put him up in a hotel there too, and met up with us in St. Thomas. So he got like half the vacation with us. Better than nothing, I suppose. Um, but yeah, we were waiting for him, and just sadly, and he was the one that was going to be rooming with my dad. So just yeah, sadly, he wasn't able to make it for those first few days. And he even knew this was his first time ever trying to fly in day of, and he even knew like I shouldn't have done that. I should have gone a day before. I tell people if it's in your budget, I know everyone's got a different budget, but if it is in your budget, please go at least the day before, just so you never know what's going to happen day of. I have flown in day of, and it has worked, but you just never know. Weather delays, a plane breaks down, the flight crew is late, whatever. There's a ton of different things. And if you have travel insurance through them, they're going to help you out, which is nice, like they did with him. But you'd still hate to have such a rocky start to your vacation if you can avoid it. So if you can go a day ahead of time at least, please do it. We went 2 days ahead of time. We went Friday night for a Sunday departure. Again, just making sure that we're there. Anyways, okay, so we go up to the buffet, and I mean this buffet is huge. We walk in, and you can go either to the right or to the left. It's going to be basically the same stuff. We went to the right. Most times when we went into that buffet, we always went into the right. And they had just a ton of things, and a ton of people were there too. Obviously, a lot of people were coming in, and we didn't go directly there. We did a couple things beforehand, so more people were coming in on board by that point. It was getting fuller and fuller. It was hard to find a seat actually. At one point, we did find one. It was a big table We only needed three. Some people were leaving. We took the three, but then there was another five or six seats left, and someone like a family from Kentucky asked if they could join us. Like, yeah, of course, we get it. It's tough to find seating right now, so they joined us. And my first meal on there, and this was, I mean, it's like they were bringing out the welcome wagon for us here, rolling out the red carpet. I had steak and lobster and shrimp, my own little surf and turf for the first meal on Star of the Seas, and it was incredible. I couldn't believe I've never gone on a ship, and the first thing I'm eating on the ship is steak and lobster. That's usually like what you get on Captain's Night, you know, at the dining table. That's not something you get at the buffet on the very first day, but it's almost like they were just welcoming us with opening arms. With here's some special food for you, and I had that. It was nice to see that they did have consistently throughout the week. Not that we eat at the buffet every lunch, but they did have consistently, from what I noticed, steak on the buffet, which I was really excited about. I like to eat steak. I don't eat it very often at home, so when I'm on a cruise, I like to get it. Yeah. So we ate that, and then eventually our rooms were ready. Went to our rooms. Me and Selena we were all in the front. I was on the front. We were on the front at deck 10. My dad was like on deck. No, we were on 11. Our friends were in deck 10. My dad was on 9 or something like that. We were like all in front pretty much. And my my steward, my room steward, his name was Ravi, real nice guy. Everything was already ready. It was ready even earlier than what we had thought it was going to be. So I was like, all right, cool. So we'll get to take a look and see our room. And like I said, it was way up in the front. When I say in the front, it's like here, those hallways that kind of go down. When they curved around to the front, that's where our room was. It was in that front, not just near the front, but the actual like. There's no more further can you go than where our rooms were. That's how far up in the front me and Selena's room were. And that was kind of unique. And while there, we kind of settled in a little bit. When we left, as we left to go explore the ship, as we were leaving out, we noticed that the people that were bringing up the bags, I noticed Selena's bag. I was like, "Oh, hey, there's your bag." They were just kind of setting them out in the hallway for people to. I think they were eventually going to take them to people's rooms, but Selena was there. I was like, "You want to take your bag and you can take it to the room." She's like, yeah, okay. So she took it, and then as I just peeked around the corner where the door was, where they were bringing them in, I saw my bag. I was like, oh, I'll take it. So that way you don't have to worry about it. I'm telling the steward there, so she didn't have to worry about it. I was like, I'll take it for you. So I took it. We got our bags. So we were on the ship, well fed, got our bags within an hour or so, yeah, an hour or two, and and having to also get a couple questions answered and some things ironed out. All that really smooth, very easy, which I appreciate because sometimes you could go in there and it could be a headache depending on what's going on. If you do have a fire that needs to be put out, so to speak, you have an issue that you need to raise with them. Sometimes that can take a while. Sometimes you don't get your bag until way late, because just how it worked out, whatever. For us, it went really nice, really smooth. Um, and then from there, we went out and explored the ship. It's a huge ship. And I think the elevator at the most went up to like deck 17. Um, and I guess if you were to technically count maybe some of the water slides, it could be 18, 19, whatever. But deck 17, that was like the sports deck. A very, very big ship and a lot of stuff to do. So we walked around to explore it. And when you, for me, when I first explore, it takes me a couple days to really get the layout of the land, and that's just like on a normal regular ship. This one, it's definitely going to take at least a few days to really get comfortable with everything is. And I think still, as the end was going, it was like, oh, this is here. Yeah. Um, yeah. And so that day that we left, again, our friend didn't make it. I was kind of bummed about that, but we did eventually get him back with us. And then when we all left afterwards, he was like one of the first ones that had to leave because he came on late. They had all the ones that came on late leave like right away, like 5 in the morning. As soon as we got docked, they had him come there and they're gone. I didn't even get to say bye to the guy. That was kind of unique. Something I guess keep in mind if that ever happens to you. If they tell you to come in early, bring all your stuff because it looks like they're getting you off before everyone else. And that morning we had me and my dad and Selena had breakfast together at the dining room. That was my first and only time having breakfast in the dining room the day we left. And when I say the day we left, the day now we left to go, the day we came back and left the ship for good. That sad day. I hate that day. The night before and the day in the morning of departure day, your final day of the cruise is very depressing. I hate that day. And it was the first time, like Saturday night, as we were coming back towards Florida, the temperature dropped, and it was hard to be outside. And I had to put like a sweater on, a sweatshirt on. Thankfully, I kept it with me. And it was the wind was blowing. It was really a lot colder out. And I had a friend ask for me to do like a live YouTube video reviewing the ship at night. So I did that, and that was a little difficult to do with how chilly it was and how windy it was too. And then when we got in on Sunday morning, the temperature was like 30 degrees outside, and it felt like 10 or something ridiculous like that. I was like, this is Florida? Are you kidding me? That was my first time ever coming back to Florida from a cruise, and it's freezing out, literally freezing out. And then having to get our bags, which that didn't take very long at all. We just, like I said, we ate dinner. We waited for our number to be called, or I mean, excuse me, we ate breakfast, waited for our number to be called, went out there. Our bags were easy to find, but our friend who was rooming with my dad, he had, because he had limited mobility, he had paid to have his bag shipped ahead of time. So his bags were there for days with my dad. And then he didn't, he was going to have it sent out back to him. He had that paid for. So we had to find the guy to do that for him. And that took a little bit of time. That was a little bit of a hassle finding the guy, but we finally eventually did. My uncle came and picked us up, went back to my grandparents' house, hanged out with them for the afternoon until we had to fly out that night, which we got dropped off. Again, my uncle had to drop us off a little bit earlier, which I'm like, that's fine. I'd rather be early at the gate and wait than be late and rushing. Same with the cruise. I'd rather be a day or two early, wait, instead of rushing and possibly miss the thing. Sadly, our flight going back got delayed and delayed and delayed. There was like a fire at air traffic control or something like that, and they had to evacuate. That's what I heard. And so it just delayed everything. Everything got delayed. And so as it was, we were already going to get pushed out. I mean, even with normal schedule, we weren't getting into like 10, 11 o'clock. And our friend who's dropped us off and picked us up again was super nice about coming late. And then I kept updating him like, "Oh, we're late. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We didn't land till 1:30." And nice enough this guy is. He's just like, "Welcome home." I'm like, "Oh, thanks, man." So I didn't even get home and then showered and in bed till probably 3, and then I had to get up for work. I'm like, yeah, that was tough. Anyway, so that was the experience, I guess you could say, going on Star of the Seas, how I got there, getting on there, getting off of it. Now, obviously, there's a ton of stuff that happened in between. I'm going to get into all of that as well. As I mentioned, as regards the ports themselves, the stops that we did, separate podcasts. Take a look at those at another time. But all the other stuff that went on during the week and on the ship, that's what I'm going to talk about. The first one that I want to talk about is our room. So, as I mentioned, when we get on there, we find our room, and we're able to get our luggage relatively easy, which I appreciate being able to do. Yay for that. And then we get into our room. Our room was kind of unique. As I mentioned, it was very much to the very front of it. And this is possibly that those type of rooms on other ships are like that. I'm not sure. I haven't been to that far up front of a room before. But when you walked in there, there was immediately you're like in the living room slash bedroom, if that makes any sense. Walk in there. On the right hand side, there's a wall, and on the wall they had like a little things to hang up your coat or sweater or whatever. They had something on there in the wall. You look to the left, there's a chair. Cool. A step or two forward, you got the door on the right to the bathroom, and then you got your bed. And then continue on the wall, there's the TV. And it was kind of cool because the way that it was situated, you could lay in bed and look directly at the TV right in front of you, which I did like that. And then there was the bathroom. The bathroom for an interior room was actually not too bad. I've been in some bathrooms where you have very little room. I've been in showers where you had very little room. Not that this was huge by any means. I looked at the bathroom that my dad and friend had because he has limited mobility, so he was in a handicap accessible um, bathroom. That thing's huge. This wasn't huge, but there was at least a little bit of room to be able to take a couple steps. And even in the shower, which was not your typical just the curtain and close it that way. This actually had a door to it, which I appreciated. It had a little bit of maneuverability within there. I didn't feel super tight in there, and even where you could sit down if you wanted to. Um, I didn't need to sit down, but I know some people need to sit down for whatever reasons. So they had that in the bathroom, and the bathroom was not too bad. It was not too bad. Um, yeah, and so there you had that, and then as I mentioned, you had the TV, and then at the very end of it, there was a little, there was a door, and if you turn to the right there, you have a little sitting area plus like a walk-in closet, and that was a unique room for me because usually when I've come into most any room, you walk in immediately either on your left or right, you've got the closet space and the bathroom, maybe on the other side of it. Go and then there's your bed with a TV. And depending if it's interior, the bed is like up against the wall. I mean, at the end of it with the TV on the corner, or if it's ocean view or balcony, your bed's on the side with the TV on the other side, that type of thing. Um, or something to that effect. This was a very unique one to me. The first time, again, and it may be because just where it was located. It may be other ships. If it's at the very front like that, maybe it is too. If you've been in a room like that on a different ship, let me know. Uh, Mention in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. But anyways, yeah, it was just you walk in immediately. There's a chair, the bed, there's a wall, the bathroom, and on the other side there's the uh, walk-in closet area. Um, and so yeah, there and because of it, there wasn't a ton of space when it came to like storage. I mean, they did have like you could hang up your clothes, but there wasn't like a ton of shelves or anything, or drawers or anything to be able to put away a lot of clothes. So that made it a little bit more difficult when it came to space. The trash can in the bathroom was a little tiny too, and they had a trash can outside by the bed as well, which was helpful. But I had to put like my suitcase on the chair, so we didn't even sat on the thing. I put that on the chair, and that was and just kind of lived out of it for a week, which I was fine doing. Not the end of the world, but just kind of know that at least with that room, maybe the other rooms are different, but at least with that room, there wasn't a ton of like storage space. And I mean, you could hang up your clothes, which was nice. They had some hangers and some areas for that, but not a lot of shelves or drawers or anything. So take that for what it's worth. So that was the room. And moving on to the next thing I want to talk about will be the dining options. Already mentioned to you the buffet, and I'll talk a little bit more about the buffet. Obviously, the buffet is going to be open morning, afternoon, and evening for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. A lot of food. It is a huge buffet. You walk in there, as I mentioned, you can go to the right, you can go to the left, and it's essentially going to be the same thing on either side. When you walk to, let's just say, like, you go to the right. On the right hand side, you'll just see a long line of food. You get your plate, you can get your silverware, and just start going down. Anything from salads to hamburgers, hot dogs, steak, a bunch of other food that they're going to have line or that they're serving. And then at the very end of it, you're going to see desserts. In the morning, you're going to see like bread, cereal, donuts, pastries. Big, huge, long line. Just of that. That alone is actually quite a bit of food. But then from there, when you look over to the left, now you're going to get different islands of food. So you go to the left and you see an island that might have like someone that's carving some meat, and then a variety of different other hot foods that they have in the morning. You get scrambled eggs, little omelets, hash browns, sausage, all kinds of things. Go there's probably I want to say at least three different islands right there in the center. That's going to have different foods. One's going to be like hot, another one's going to be like cold food, maybe like macaroni salad or in the morning different fruits, vegetables, just maybe stuff that's cold. The other one had more hot food and as well as like international food. I saw like in the Indian food, like chicken curry. I saw that a few times. Some other things I didn't know how to pronounce. You have at least three different uh, islands of food. And then if you were to look down that way, as you look left, you see the three different islands. On the left-hand side, you're going to see a station that's going to have your drinks. You can get obviously your water, your coffee, tea. You could also, they had a few different juices that were available to you. On the right-hand side, you're going to see another station that had deli stuff. I think in the morning, like your lox and bagels and maybe some charcuterie, yeah. um, things like that. So there was going to be that station. And at the very end, if you went all the way down, they had another station that's like up against the back wall that had gluten free as well as some other things. All that was part of it. The picture I took was from back there towards the front, which I probably didn't get the best pictures when it came. I think I only took the one, and I know it wasn't. I was trying to encapsulate it all with one. I didn't take multiple pictures, but anyways, and that's just the half. You go on the other half, it's the same thing. Obviously, with 6,500 people on board, they're going to need a lot of food if people come to eat at the buffet. Um, so you got a lot of food. Now, granted, because there's so many places to fill in food, you did see a lot of the same stuff on a daily basis. I saw the same eggs, which I did like their eggs. Sometimes I've noticed, I don't know what it is. I'm not a chef and I don't have that I don't, refined of a palate to know exactly what it is. But I know that there is times that I've tried either scrambled eggs and or an omelet, and there is a taste in there that I don't care for. I don't know if it's a certain cheese that is being used, if it's a certain milk. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I know there's times that I've tried it and I'm just like, I don't like this. They didn't have that taste, whatever that taste is that I don't care for. That just tasted like regular scrambled eggs or regular omelet. Tasted good. I enjoyed it. I got it. Anytime that we went there for breakfast, which I think is every day. I think it was only I went to the dining room for breakfast the last day. So yeah. But yeah, they kind of typically had the same thing. You'd see the same. They might change up like the donuts. Maybe one day it's like chocolate frosted, and the next day it's strawberry frosted. They might change up some pastries. But some and like the meat carving, they might have that changed up a little bit. Maybe one day is ham, another day is roast beef. Um, so there would be little varieties here and there, but they would also have your same staples that they had every day. Cereal was probably the same. You could, milk, chocolate milk, yeah, that was the same. Your toast, and all that stuff. Um, to be able to get something different every single day would probably be very difficult to do. So I could understand why there was quite a bit of consistency throughout the week. Why you saw some of the same foods every day. And that was the buffet. Enjoyed that a lot. Um, not gonna lie on that one. And then if you were to go to the dining room, we did go to the dining room as I mentioned the last day for breakfast. We went the last day for breakfast, and what I ordered was pretty good. Oh, actually, one more thing I forgot in the buffet for breakfast. They didn't have it to order, but you could make it yourself. They had waffles, they had pancakes, French toast, but they had displays of like these waffles that just had all kinds of goodies in between. That maybe a few stacked high with whipped cream and M&Ms and sprinkles and all. It just looked delicious, and you had it all there to make it if you wanted to. They did. I wondered if it was something you could order, but it wasn't something you could order. But you could make it yourself, and I kind of did my own little version of it. That was nice. In the dining room, I did I have French toast? Was it? Maybe it was French toast. Can't remember what I had at the very end, but I was able to order what I wanted exactly, and the fruit that I wanted, and all that. And it was a really good breakfast in the morning. My dad likes to go to the dining room more often for breakfast than I do. I think maybe because he can sit down and relax, and they can serve him, which I think is nice, especially on that last day. But th- during the week, I might be eager to go someplace at a certain time. So I think the buffet is kind of nice for me too, where I can just grab it, eat it, and go kind of thing. Um, But yeah, so we had it at breakfast. I don't recall ever eating there for lunch. My dad may have. I'm sure whatever they had at lunchtime was good. We did eat there the majority of the time at night. There was one night that I went by myself just because we had a show that was kind of like in the middle of dinner. I came in afterwards and went there just by myself. Everyone else left. We had ate something beforehand. I kind of munched, and then I ate there that night. And then the show completely uh, was throughout dinner time that we had. So I didn't we didn't. So there was one night that none of us got to eat there, but the other times we did go there, and there was we had every time dining. So the dining room spanned from decks 3 to 5 in the back of the ship, right? Three, four, and five decks. 4 and 5, I think, dealt more with like if you had a reserved time, and I forget what times they were, maybe 6:30 and 8 or whatever the reserve time was. Ours was the anytime dining, which you could go anytime you wanted between. They started up at 6:45 and went all the way to I think 9. It was like 6:45 to 9. Go anytime, and they'll find you, a table. What was kind of nice was they were kind of willing to be able to make it consistent for us. So pretty much every time that we went, we got the same wait staff. They're the guy, the main waiter, his for our area, the head waiter was Nhors, and then his assistant waiter was Emmanuel. We didn't always eat at the exact same table. We had this exact same table like a few nights, but then a couple nights we might have been put at a different table. But for the most part, it was always them two. One time, we were put at a different table with another waiter and assistant waitress, and they were fine. They did a great job. Um, the whole wait staff was very friendly in that area, and I'm sure the entire dining room they were too. But at least in that area, they did it. And the last night, they had like the chefs come out and they did sung and dance and kind of made it a little special occasion with that. That was kind of neat. Um, I noticed they would have appetizers. Some stayed the same, like maybe a Caesar salad was always on there every night. I think escargot, similar to how Celebrity was, from what I remember. And then they had a variety of other things. Um, and it seemed like they always had like a steak on the menu for your main entree if you wanted that. Which I got the steak the very first night, I think, because I didn't know if it was going to change or not. So I was like, well, let me eat it while I have the chance, and that was pretty good. I think maybe I got one a little bit later on, but throughout the week they had prime rib. I think prime rib was on the first night. They had a braised lamb. I think on one of the last nights that was really good. Um, what other dinners did they have? They had lobster at one point. And I didn't even try everything. I couldn't have tried everything. I think I tried their fish once, but everything I had was delicious. Everything I had was very delicious. Desserts. One night they had a baked Alaska. They had one. My favorite was like this soft chocolate cake that they had that was very fudgy like and just so rich and tasty. Um, I love that. And you could what else do they have? Creme brulee. They had another thing that was like creme brulee. They had always a there was a lot of times they had like a warm, like a fruit type of crumble, like an apple crumble or a cherry crumble or blueberry crumble, something like that. That was very warm, and I mean warm like piping hot almost, but with a side of ice cream too. And you could mix that together and eat that together. That was quite delicious. Wonderful food in the dining room and a wonderful wait staff too. Um, and I've always said this. I love going into the dining room for dinner, opening up that menu, seeing these things like a lobster dinner, braised lamb, creme brulee, all that stuff, and then not seeing any prices with it. I love it. I love being able to. And they didn't, and hopefully they won't, because it's becoming a pet peeve of mine, the cruise lines that do this. They didn't charge for the extra stuff if you wanted to get, let's say, the veal and the prime rib. They didn't charge extra for that. Every now and then you might see like, okay, an additional lobster tail might be $10 or something like that. But for the most part, if you wanted another entree, they weren't charging you for it. I was happy about that. So that was the main dining room. The next thing I'll talk about is the Pearl Cafe. The Pearl Cafe that was within the Royal Promenade. As I mentioned, when we walked onto the ship, we walked onto the Royal Promenade, and it spans decks 5, which you walked in on, and deck 6. And right in the middle, you see this big, huge globe looking thing that has stairs that goes on upstairs. And at the very ends of it, there's also stairs that go upstairs too. And then on those ends, you also have the elevators. If you were to look at that globe, which there's a nice photo opportunity there because they have a sign that says Star of the Seas. Nice photo op there. If you were to go up those stairs, you're coming into like the sitting area of this little restaurant looking thing. It's called the Pearl Cafe. It's a little cafe. And from there, you can purchase some things like you can purchase some specialty coffees, which is funny because it's right down below it is Starbucks. Would you think you could get specialty coffee there? Again, I didn't buy anything from Starbucks, so maybe they have different things on their menu. Maybe they're similar. I don't know. I'm not even a coffee drinker, so I'm not gonna buy specialty coffee. But anyways, they had specialty coffee that you could order up there. But then they also had behind encased glasses, you could see a variety of different food. In the breakfast time, they did have some things on there like I don't know, spinach quiche, little breakfast sandwiches. They always had like at the counter um, jars of cookies that you could get. In the afternoon, they would have different cold sandwiches, different sandwiches that they could warm up. I remember there was like a shred barbecue chicken type of sandwich I had, which actually was pretty good and pretty filling too. Um, Other cold things too, like maybe a yogurt parfait in the morning, um, cheese and crackers and meat type of plate. Uh, they had a variety of things, and then a variety of different desserts too that they would have too. A chocolate cake, pudding, whatever. I would say pudding, like a mousse. They had all that. Um, and then right near it, they had a place where you could get drinks. When I say like a drink station, they were all very similar. Where if there was a drink station, you could get your water, you could get your coffee, tea, you could get different juices, and then they also had like a one of those Coke machine fountain drink type of setup too, where if you paid for like the soda pop package, you get a cup and it would somehow register. I don't know how they knew it, but if you were to just put like a regular cup in there, it wouldn't go on. But if you were to put whatever cup you had or some other way, I don't know how I ever did it, but it would know. Then you could get like Coke and Diet Coke and whatever other type of pop you wanted. And remember, I'm from Michigan. We say pop up here. But for wherever you are in the country, soda pop, soda, Coke, if you're from the South, you could get that all there. That was at the Pro Cafe, and the Pro Cafe was not only was it good, it was open all night long. It was open all night long. It was open 24/7. So you literally had access to food every hour of the day. You could always get food if you wanted to. At least there. That was the only place that was open 24/7. All right, so that was the Pearl Cafe. Um, if you went downstairs on deck five, there was another place called Sorrentos, and Sorrentos was their pizza place, and that was open pretty late. It wasn't open 24/7 like the Pro Cafe was up above it, but it was open until 3 a.m. So if you go to a late night show, you get out afterwards and you're kind of hungry, you want to nosh a little bit, or if you're just up partying, people stay up partying, drinking, and they get hungry. You got a few different options. Till 3 a.m. you can get some pizza, and up until whatever, if that's closed, if it's 3:30 a.m. and you're still hungry, go up to the Pro Cafe. You have access to food there too. The pizza I did get to try a little bit here and there. I didn't indulge a whole lot in pizza, even though I was kind of tempted to, but there was so much food options I wanted to try them all. And I'm over 40 now. I don't have the metabolism like I did when I was 18 or anything like that. I do have to be somewhat careful. Um, so I had to kind of watch myself a little bit. I tried, but it was difficult. But I did eat a little bit of their pizza. And every day they had the same things on the menu, pretty much. They had a kosher pizza. That was one you saw a sign right away. You saw a kosher pizza. I didn't need to eat a kosher pizza, but it's there for those that need it. You had your classic pepperoni pizza, you had an all cheese pizza, and then generally they would always have something else. And that something else would be some kind of specialty for the day. Maybe it was barbecue chicken, maybe it was vegetarian, maybe it was Hawaiian, whatever. They had your cheese, your pepperoni pizza, and then whatever that specialty was for the day, and the kosher. So you had three pizzas that were always there every day, and then one extra. So you had always like four options. And once again, they had another station there, a Coke station, and you could get that pop or you could get water, whatever. Um, and that was pretty good. There was the pizza was kind of on the thinner side, which I'm fine with. I did kind of enjoy that. Everyone I know has different styles that they like. This one was like a little bit more of a thinner crust, and probably it might be a little easier to make it so fast because that's the only pizza place on the ship. And pizza is a very popular food with people, right? So more than likely, having the thinner crust, they could probably make it a little quicker. That's my guess. I'm not a pizza maker or a cook or a chef. That's just my guess. But yeah, that was Sorrentos. I did enjoy that. I think you would too. And that was open till 3 a.m. And then there was this one place. If you were to go to deck six, I believe it was. Yeah, so if you were to go to deck six and you could walk to it from the Royal Promenade, you had to go through like a store to get to there, but there was a place called Playmakers, and Playmakers was a sports bar and grill. When you walked into Playmakers, on your right hand side you saw skeet ball, you had basketball. On your left hand side you saw some tables, some TVs on the wall. There was TVs right in the middle where the columns were. And there were some classic video games like I saw Donkey Kong and Miss Pac-Man or Pac-Man, one of the two. And then you had pool tables, you had shuffleboard, you had foosball, air hockey. I saw there. I saw Connect Four on some of the tables, and then you also had a bar there with TVs surrounding it and more tables that were on. It kind of reminded me of like its own little version of Buffalo Wild Wings, and you could go there and buy sports bar and grill type of food. And when I say buy, I do mean buy. This was not included in it. There was a couple things that were included. Like I noticed you could play Donkey Kong or Pac-Man, and I don't think they charged for it. I think you could just play that. Me and Selena played foosball. That was free of charge. I think the pool tables were free of charge as well. So there were some things that were free, but like the skeet ball and the basketball, you had to pay for. I believe air hockey you had to pay for. The food, I saw people like on the menu. I saw buffalo wings, and I'm sure there was some other stuff. I just didn't look too in depth at it. Obviously, the beer, the drinks weren't going to be included. You'd have to pay for that. But that was all within Playmakers. That was like a sports bar and grill that had a little bit of like a couple free things, but then there's also something to pay for. And of course, we sat and watched one of the Red Wings were on. I was like, hey, look at that, the Red Wings are on, and they were losing, of course. Like the one time I can watch them on a ship and they're losing, of course. But we sat down. It was after one of the shows or after dinner or something like that. We were kind of full, just kind of walking around and sat down, watched them for a period, and didn't order anything. We just kind of watched them. You could do that too. You could go there. When we first got there, it was on a Sunday, as I mentioned. There was the championship games were going on. The NFC Championship game between Seattle and Los Angeles. That was one of the games that were on that day. And then Denver versus New England, the AFC Championship game, were being played. So there was definitely a lot of people. I saw Patriots fans. I saw Broncos fans watching the game. Drinking beer, having a good time. That's there if that's something that interests you. If you're like me, you like sports, or even if you don't like sports. I mean, just a place to hang out, have fun. There's that. All right, so that was Playmakers, and then there was a Mexican place that was on deck called El Loco Fresh, and I feel like I'm saying that with like the most American white person accent, a Loco Fresh, but that's what it was, and it was Mexican food. So this was actually on deck. It was by like kind of near the pool. I believe it was on the starboard side. Whatever. Anyways, but it was up there, not hard to find. And they had a bunch of different burritos like wrapped up. They had quesadillas. I want to say they had chicken quesadillas, but they definitely had some kind of quesadillas. They had the burritos. They had like a nacho area. I guess you could say you could get chips, or you can make it into taco, whatever. They had all the meat and the cheese and the lettuce and the tomatoes and all that stuff that you could make either tacos or nachos. They had salsa stations, so if you wanted to go there and put other additional fixings on it. I'm sure they had like hot sauce and hot salsa and all that, or guacamole, sour cream, all that stuff that you want to, put on your taco or burrito or on your nachos. They had that. If you like that type of food, I don't mind. I tried the burrito. The burrito was pretty tasty. I was trying to find one that had, well, I didn't. I just grabbed one. I shouldn't say it, but there was a lot of beans in there, and I mean, I will eat beans. They're not my like top choice, but they did have black beans in there and whatever the meat was. And then I had one of the quesadillas, which I did like. I did have that for lunch one of the day. So that's El Loco Fresh. They have a place there that you can sit by the pools and enjoy it outside because it is an outside thing. I don't remember when that closed. That's not something that's open too late. Probably around like dinner time. They'll open it up, I think, around lunch. They're not even open like in the morning time. They'll open it around lunch and probably be open around like lunch and like dinner time. Once dinner is done, they're pretty much closed. So that was a local fresh. And then also that was another area that was on deck, a little bit closer to the back of the ship by the mini golf course and by the water slides, was a place called Basecamp. And I really liked it was very colorful. Well, I guess a local fresh was colorful too because that that Mexican theme has some color to it. But Basecamp was kind of colorful too, and that kind of reminded me, even though it was called Basecamp, which you think of base camp, I don't know, you think of like going up the mountains, and you have to make camp someplace, and you know that's kind of what I think of, anyways. Um, but they had colorful tables with some wooden chairs, and I want to say they kind of were similar to El Loco Fresh, where they're going to be on the deck. They're not going to be open too long. They're not nothing for breakfast from what I remember, but they're open for like lunch and dinner time, and they had just like regular American food. They had hot dogs, smash burgers, tater tots, chicken fingers. They had warm pretzel bites, and I did try pretty much everything. I didn't try a hot dog, and the stuff that I tried. There's some I just tried a few things, but I tried their tater tots and they were pretty good. Had some of their warm pretzels, which I did like. And in fact, when I go to the movies, I like to get like warm little pretzel bites and dip that in cheese, which they had that here. And I didn't have to pay $10 for it, which was kind of nice. All this food was included. Oh, Loco Fresh was included too, right? I don't know if I mentioned that. Their chicken fingers, I had one of them. That was pretty good. And then their smash burger was really good too. So I'm going to put that as number 3 on my list as regards best burgers at sea. Number 1 to me is going to be Guy's Fury on Carnival. That's just number 1 to me. Number 2, which I think is actually a close second, is Margaritaville at Sea. I thought their hamburgers were delicious. And then right there, number 3, I'd say these smash burgers on Royal Caribbean. I liked them a lot. They were really good. Base camp, and with being that it was so close to like mini golf. I mean, literally mini golf was right next to it. And then you got the water slides there in the back. You're going to probably attract more young kids on this. And this whole cruise ship has like a ton of kids on it. It's very geared towards young kids, families. It's very family friendly, very kid friendly. So when you're back there, you're gonna attract kids, and this is the type of stuff they like to eat: hot dogs, hamburgers, chicken tenders. Kids like that type of stuff. You don't necessarily need to have I don't know, beef stroganoff back there, right? It's not necessarily something you need to deal with. You have a bunch of kids and families running around that area. And I liked it. I actually thought that, as I said, I liked the decor of it. I liked sitting down. We sat down there actually Sunday night and just kind of watched some of the football game. We watched it there. I don't think it was open anymore. And there is a bar that's attached to it too. Not there's the where you get the food, and then there's the drink station. But then just a little bit underneath that same area, just a little on the other side of it, you have a bar there too. So you could actually order some drinks there if you want. So that was base camp, and I did, yeah, I liked it there. I liked it a lot, actually. And then speaking of kids, as I mentioned that this was very kid friendly, they have an area called Surfside, and with Surfside, they had. And I will talk about Surfside a little bit later when I'm talking about like fun stuff to do, the activities on the ship. But they had a place there to eat too, and it was called Surfside Eatery. And Surfside Eatery, well, actually, they had a couple places, Surfside Eatery, but then there was also this other little area too. And they kind of the other little area, I forgot the name of it, but it is similar to Base Camp where you could get like um, a hot dog, a hamburger. They had, but it was again geared towards kids, and they had little like fruit skewers, which was actually very good. Some of the best fruit that I had on the ship was that little fruit skewer. They had little cinnamon churros. They had like little pizza toasty kind of thing. Um, which I said that the only place you get pizza was at Sorrentos. I guess you could count that as that too. So forget what I said there. I guess which I tried. It was actually not bad. You know, hot dog, hamburger, that type of thing. They had a little ice cream station there near it too, and they had like little confetti cookies, which I really liked. Those were soft, had little sprinkles in them. They were really good. And then so I forgot what that was called, but right near it was another place called Surfside Eatery. They may be kind of associated with each other a little bit. I'm not sure, but Surfside Eatery, you actually could take a tray. It was almost like a little tiny buffet, little tiny one, and you could get some fruits or vegetables, salad, and they would have. I saw spaghetti and bolognese sauce, and then I saw like little hamburger sliders. Again, kids are going to be in that area because that area is designed for kids, and you had little sandwiches, stuff like that. But they also had two things I really liked. One, they had an ice cream station. There was quite a few ice cream stations around, but they had an ice cream station that included toppings that you could put on it. I think you could even get it in a bowl too. And so most of them, the other ice cream stations just had the cone, which is fine. That's tasty too. This one actually get a bowl or you get a cone, whatever, and put different toppings on it, which was kind of nice. And the very last day on Saturday when I went there because I wanted to try some things, they had one of these things where it's like those confetti cookies and then it's like a sandwich with cream in between. And I'm like, this been here the whole time? I love these things. I I would have been eating this every day if I knew this was here. And I get it at the last day. And I don't know if they only make so many because later on when I went to do my live review on YouTube, I went in there and showed it and they didn't have any more. They had other desserts there. And the other desserts looked pretty good, but they didn't have that. I'm like, what? Where did this go? So I don't know if it was something that they only make a certain amount and then once it's gone, it's gone. I don't know. But I stumbled across it that one time, Saturday afternoon, and I'm like, oh man, this is delicious. I love this thing. That was it. That was the only time we got to try it. Oh well. So that was Surfside Eatery. And then let's see. So where Surfside is, on the other side of it, which this is like on deck 8, on the other side of it, you have Central Park, which again, I'll talk about that eventually. And within Central Park, there is a park cafe. The park cafe, I actually will be honest, I never did eat. There was a bunch of other things. With this one, I went in there and saw what they had. And they had like sandwiches and some of the other stuff that I think the other places are similar to what they had. I don't remember how late they're open. I don't think they were open too late. And even Surfside Cafe, they only, or Surfside Eatery, excuse me, only was, certain hours of like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Maybe not even breakfast, but there was only certain hours. They weren't open all the time. Park Cafe, I think, was open until like to dinner time kind of thing. And that was about it. They had, as I mentioned, some sandwiches, some snacks, some a drink station there. That was kind of about it. Never tried it. I'm sure it's fine. But there was that. I did mention that they had ice cream stations throughout. Um, there's on deck on deck 15. There's by the kids. They had them throughout. They but they were always kind of the same. There's vanilla, chocolate, swirl. That was it. I didn't really see a whole variety of different ice creams. I just saw that, and I didn't even really ever have one. I did have a little bit when I went to the when I could put some toppings on it. Selena got maybe one or two, and I think I might have like a bite of hers or something like that. And that was about it. But if you like ice cream, they do have quite a bit of ice cream that's surrounding you. Plenty of stations throughout the ship. I want to say probably I could count at least three, maybe more than that. And so there was that. And then one of my favorite places, I guess I could say it, I saved one of the best for last for myself, anyways, was the Aquadome Market. Now, the Aquadome, one more time, I'll get into what the Aquadome is in a bit, but the Aquadome, an area where a big dome, it's up front, they do some shows there. But right next to it, they have the Aquadome Market, and it has a few different places that you can get stuff to eat. One of them is crepes. I don't know if you like crepes or ever eat crepes, but I don't get them very often. Not just It's just something I'm not really around that often. I don't eat them hardly ever. But they were there and they were included. I'm like, all right, I'll get one. And they had four different ones. You could get like just your classic one, which had really no filling on it. They put maybe some powdered sugar on top with a raspberry and a little dollop of whipped cream next to it. That was actually not bad. And then they had it where you could get it filled with they had like a salted caramel type of filling, and they drizzled, I think, chocolate on it. And then there's a couple others that you could get with Nutella and bananas or Nutella and strawberries. It was delicious. And so there was four different ones. I'm like, all right, for four different lunches, I'm going to get this. And around the corner from it was four different eateries that are included in that Aquadome market. One of them was Thai food called Mai Tai, which is kind of a little funny play on words. You got that kind of often enough um, with Royal Caribbean. Yeah, it's called Mai Tai, similar like the drink, but it's Thai food. Anyways, I went up to the person there, and the first thing I saw was what's it called? Pad Thai, and vegetable pad Thai. So I was like, hey, I'm curious, is this spicy? And the girl smiles. Yes, it is. I was like, oh, okay, well, never mind. I can't do spice. And then I looked over to the next thing, some kind of lemongrass chicken or something like that. I was like, how about this? Is this spicy? She's like, a little bit, yeah. I'm like, all right, take a chance. When someone says a little bit, that means a lot to me. Then I was like, okay, what about this? The spring rolls? She's like, oh, the spring rolls are fine. I'm like, all right, I'll take some. So normally you get like an order of those. They give you four. She gave me like six because that was the only thing I was eating from there, and they were very good. So I had that along with the classic crepes, which the guys there working, they're so nice. I forget their names, but they were working back there real hard. And that one did take a little bit of time to get. Usually I would have to stand in line for like 5 to 10 minutes at least because they got to make the whatever. It's not like they're already pre-made. Some of the other stuff in those other places, Aquadome, are already made. Some are, some aren't. So you can take a little bit more time with the crepes, but they were real nice. Anyway, so that was one night, and then right next to Mai Tai is another place called Out BBQ, which is their barbecue place, and you had the option. You could either get the barbecue like in a sandwich, or you could put it on top of mac and cheese. Either the bun or the mac and cheese could be your base. That's pretty cool. I got mac and cheese. I can get a sandwich. I eat sandwiches every day at home, even if it's not barbecue sandwich. It's still a sandwich. I'm eating all the time. So I got mac and cheese as the base, and then they had like barbecue pork or barbecue chicken. I got them both. I was like, I put one half on one side and one half on the other. So I got that, and that was really tasty. Good barbecue place for there. Um, so that was Pig Out Barbecue, and then right next to that was a place called Feta Mediterranean, and there you could get your gyros, your chicken or pork gyros. They had falafel. They had something else, some kind of rice, as like the base, and then from there you could get like whatever type of toppings you wanted on it, which they had quite a bit. I kind of was simple. I had some feta cheese on mine and some tzatziki sauce, and that was it. And that was actually pretty good. I won't lie, I enjoyed that. That was not bad at all. So that's Feta Mediterranean. And then right next to that was La Cocinita. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but that had empanadas on it. They had spinach and cheese empanadas, which I think my dad thought was like spinach pie, like Greek. I'm like, no, I think that's now you're going into the Mexican side because they're right next to each other. Or they had a chicken empanada, which I tried. That was not bad. And then they had sweet corn arapas. I think that's how you pronounce it. I tried the chicken and cheese one. No. I'm sorry. I didn't. No. I tried the beef one. I tried. I tried the chicken empanada, but the beef and cheese arapas, and that actually was not. That was actually not bad at all. I actually kind of did really like it. They warmed it up and melted the cheese in it. It was actually really good. I can't remember if I finished it or not, just because I was full a lot. I mean, there was a lot of food. They also had some Cuban sandwiches there that you could get with chips. I never got that. Just I guess it was just not really my thing, but they did have that there. Um, and so I don't know. Come to think of it, maybe that is that. If it's a Cuban sandwich, maybe that place isn't a Mexican place. Maybe that is Cuban because their El Loco Fresh was Mexican. So maybe this is. Maybe you could help me out if you're Latin and know this, or even if you're not Latin, you know this. If empanadas, arapas, and Cuban sandwiches is that Cuban? Is that something else? I mean, obviously the sandwich is Cuban. Is the rest of it Cuban too, or is it from Mexico, or is that from a different Latin area? Let me know because I'm not sure. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's Puerto Rican. It's not Mexican. I don't know. Anyways, but that was all in the Aquadome market, and that was probably my favorite place. I mean, I obviously love the buffet. I love the main dining room. Those are kind of staples on every cruise line, but not every cruise line is going to have like an Aquadome market with those different type of eateries, and I really like that. And that was all included. I love it when it's all included. I always love when something's all included. So that's what you got: the main dining room, you got the buffet, you got the Pearl Cafe, you had the Playmakers didn't have free food. Sorrentos, El Loco Fresh, Basecamp, Aquadome Market had four. So you're looking at least 10 different eateries, more than that, of where you could get some food that doesn't cost you anything, not a dime. And I love when that is the case. Now there are some stuff that you can. That Surfside eatery area where the kids are, there was like a little place there, Pier 7, I think it's called. You could get like some brunch food. That was, I guess you could say, specialty dining that you had to pay for. Um, they had one. I was so tempted to get something, but I just didn't. I was trying to be good. They had like a milkshake bar, and these milkshakes looked amazing. I mean, super fanciful, full of 1,000 million calories type of milkshakes. They looked delicious. I didn't buy one, although I was very tempted to. Um, that I don't think was where was that? That was on deck 15. Yeah, that was on deck 15. That wasn't by the kids. By the kids though, there was a sweet shop. That you could buy candy. It was like kind of like going into like a bulk food store. I don't know if you guys have wherever you're listening to this or watching this. I don't know if you have what's called a bulk food store. We have that here around the corner from where I live, where you go in and there's like a bunch of candy and sweets, and you fill up a bag and you pay by the pound kind of thing. They had that there. That was also in that Surfside area. Um, and then they had also where Central Park was sushi and ice cream. I thought that was an interesting combo for like a specialty type of place. They had sushi and ice cream. They also had Chops Grill, their steakhouse, which my friends went to one night and they said that that was delicious. They were like that blew away the steak that they had at the buffet, which I, I can see that. I can see that if you're going to pay for a steak, I'm sure that I don't recall what kind of steak they got, but I'm sure there's variety of them. But whatever they got, they loved it. They really enjoyed it. By where our Aquadome Market is, and the Aquadome, right next to it, there's a seafood place, something Hook. I can't remember the name of it. There was that. There was an Italian restaurant that was in the Royal Promenade at Deck 6 that overlooks it by one of the bars. That was specialty dining that was there too. And there was just a ton of bars just throughout the ship. A lot of bars. There's the Schooner Bar, and there was that which was up there. There was Lime and Coconut, Swim and Tonic, which you kind of it was like one of those like you swim up to the bar kind of thing, and just a ton of them all over the place. I mean, if you want to buy some alcohol, you're not gonna be lacking in that area. They have that all over the place. So those were a lot of the dining options that you have. And I'm already a little over an hour in. I've only covered about maybe half the stuff I wanted to cover. Although I don't know if it'll take me as long to cover the rest. We'll see. Anyways, but I've covered my experience. I've covered the room itself as well as these dining options. And dining options is going to be most near and dear to my heart because I love eating on a cruise ship. I just love eating. You can take away the cruise ship. I just love eating, but I've found some of the best, most enjoyable foods on cruise ships at no cost, and it's all included, and I can have as much as I want, which I love about that. Again, I wish I had a better metabolism. Not that I'm overly humongous or anything like that, but I'm not 18 anymore. It doesn't digest as fast. I'll eat a meal, and I'm just like, oh, because it's just how it is when you're in your 40s, I guess. And I can only imagine that's going to get slower as I get older. And I've always joked if I ever came across a genie in a lamp, my first wish would be able to have a metabolism that just takes anything I eat, turns it into good food, good healthy food. I mean, I'd be eating donuts every meal. Anyways, so that was always near and dear to my heart. Love the food on there. Very good. Highly recommended. Okay, let's talk about the entertainment. The entertainment, they had not a lot of shows, but they had a few different ones. And where maybe where they lacked in quantity, they made up for in quality. I'll put it that way. Excellent shows. So on the Royal Promenade, right where Pearl Cafe is, if you were to continue walking out, kind of where you can look over to Deck 5, up on deck 6. If you went towards the corner near where the elevators were, in the back corner there where they do some art auction stuff, never really paid attention to it, but they have in there a place where they would do stand-up comedy. That is an adult, like 18 and over type of stand-up comedy. I never saw any of their shows, but that's there if that's something that you like. Um, in the in the main theater, the first couple days, we didn't get to see it on the first day, but the second day we made a reservation and we got to go see it. There was a comedian in there, and this comedian, I think he was from like New York area. This comedian also did some juggling. He wasn't just telling jokes; he was up there juggling. And of course, you're going to do your normal juggle of like pins or something like that. He did it blindfold at one point, and then on top of juggling, he would also like balance things on his face like a ball, or he would balance a spinning plate and then have it bounce from his nose to his chin, something to that effect. He was kind of unique in that way. And then he also would bring like maybe some people up on the show to throw him one of the things that he's trying to juggle. He got some adults involved. He got some kids involved in doing that too. And he was funny too. Like he threw in a lot of jokes along with it. He wasn't just juggling. He was juggling and doing comedy at the same time. A little bit of both. That was kind of unique. You don't see that too often. I have seen jugglers on a ship, but I don't recall seeing like comedian slash juggler or juggler slash comedian. That's been kind of rare. I haven't seen too many of that. And I want to say, what would be his thing? Would he be a comedian slash juggler or a juggler cash? Maybe I don't know. It's like 50-50. Anyway, so there was that, and that was in the main theater. And then there was also an ice show too, called Soul, which translates to the word sun. And I find that to be very funny, hilarious in a way, because you're having an ice show that the theme is the sun. Just they're two opposite things. And they did a fantastic job. These skaters, I mean, they're dancing, like they're putting on like almost like a dancing production show on ice, which they're not in. It's not like it's Disney on ice, and they're making a play. They're dancing to modern day songs. I heard like Beyonce's Texas Hold'em song on there, and a few others, and so they're dressed up like cowboys or whatever. That was a good show. They did really well with that, and they even brought out things to do like flips in the air, almost like if you were watching a skateboarder do like a half pipe kind of thing. They're doing it with ice skates. Um, yeah, so that was the show is called Soul, and I think it's definitely worth seeing um, if you get a chance to. And then of course there's going to be just a variety of lounges throughout the ship. On the Royal Promenade, I know there was a couple. One had Latin music playing a lot, um, and other live music. When we were on Friday night, we were walking through Central Park, and one of their bars slash lounges had live jazz music going on. That sounded nice. We stayed for a song or two. Um, they had on deck 3, right across from where we went to the dining room, there was this place called the Music Hall, and I remember going in there one night and was able to uh, like be a part of like what do you call it, like a rock show trivia kind of thing, and I stunk at that. I was not good at that at all because that was going back to songs like from before I was around. I knew some of them, but not all. Some of them I never heard of. Artists that I never heard of. Anyways, but one night we went in there. It was me and Selena, and they had a Latin music and going on, and a lot of people dancing. That she was singing. She started off with Selena songs, which was kind of nice, and just did a variety of Latin music, and that was enjoyable. We stayed in there for a little while. I didn't stay the whole time. We stayed in there for a little while there in the music hall. Um, yeah, so you would get like a variety of live music being played. They had one place called Dueling Pianos. I could hear them here and there walking by them when they were playing. I never went in there for a show, but I went in there a couple times for like a trivia. contest, like name that tune kind of trivia. Um, that was the rock thing actually, was name that tune. I tried those. And dueling pianos was one of the areas that they did it. They had right, and that was on deck six in the Royal Promenade. Right below it, deck five, they had a karaoke, which of course I did not do. I'm not one to sing in front of other people. I'm not a good singer, definitely not a dancer. So I enjoy watching or listening to other people doing these things, but it's not for me. But they had that there, and if that's something you like, go enjoy it. They had that. So um, different lounges throughout that you could enjoy live music. They did have a couple dance parties. There was at least two in the Royal Promenade. One was from like the 2000 area, so I definitely recognize those. And I forgot what the other theme was. They had a couple of those and a bunch of people dancing, like professional dancers that they had hired. And then of course the ship, the people on the ship were there. They were dancing. I just kind of was listening, maybe bebop a little bit. Like I said, I can't dance. I'm not a dancer. They had that, and they also had like a parade at one point with it too. And I forgot what the parade was for. It was definitely geared towards children, maybe more like live under the sea type of play, that type of thing. I don't think it was called Under the Sea. I don't think they were ripping it off from Disney, but it was something to that effect, you know. And I think they even had some kids involved in that one too, if I remember correctly, dressed up as turtles or something like that. I can't remember. Um, yeah, so they had that. Um, and then my two favorite things. Again, I guess you could say saving the best for last. Um, in the in the main theater, they had a production show called Back to the Future the Musical. Um, there wasn't a ton of stuff that I noticed that was in the main. You know, you had the comedian guy. They might have had something else that I can't remember, but they had Back to the Future the Musical, which I think, if I am correct on, I think is only exclusive to Star of the Seas. I think. I don't think any of the other Royal Caribbean has um, Back to the Future. Back to the Future the musical. Now, growing up, I grew up. I was born in '84. Back to the Future was out when I was a little boy. I think maybe even all three of them. It was like '84, '85, '88, '89, or something like that. When those movies came out, it was in the '80s. So I grew up when I was little. I knew what Back to the Future was, and childhood favorite. Not that I watch it a ton in my adulthood, but I do enjoy them. Um, and and so I was like, all right, a musical. I mean, they weren't musicals in the movies. They were just regular movies. They weren't musicals. How do you make this a musical? Well, they did it, and there were songs in the movie. I remember, you know, Power of uh, Love by who was it by? Um, Huey Lewis in the News. He did Power of Love, and there was another song that he did about being uh, back in time or something like that. Um, and then when they went to the dance, there was some music there, right? So they had some music in there, but it wasn't considered a musical. So I'm like, how are you going to make this into a musical? Well, they did it. They definitely did it, and they did a great job with it. Um, they were very picky about taking pictures. Like you could not take a picture. Took a picture before the actors came out, and you're just sitting there waiting for them for for the screen the curtain rises, and then afterwards as they're waving and saying goodbye to you and everything, they have that and their curtain call there, able to get a picture of there. Um, but yeah, they were very picky about taking pictures during it. They did not want any photos or videos. That was the only production that I saw that was like that. The rest of the production, no one said anything. Even with Torque, which I'll get to in a minute. So yeah, they didn't want any of that. But I'll give you a little bit of rundown of what happened on there. They obviously needed to adjust a few things from the movie. They didn't have Einstein, the dog, because I mean, how are you gonna have a trained dog doing something on a ship? You're just not gonna do that. So instead of Einstein being the one that tested it, Doc Brown was the one that tested it. And when you first see him, he had just tested it. He's coming back from the future or the past, whatever. So they had that, and they had a few other things that they kind of adjusted from the movie, but for the most part, a lot of it was the same. Um, but it was really well done. I mean, I thought the cast did a fantastic job, and the even the songs they for being a musical, they made it into a musical was pretty good too. And the effects for being that they were on stage, they were able to put in screens that were kind of like LED type of thing. And because of that, they were able to do the whole um, uh, time travel thing, make it look really good on stage. And then the highlight of it for me was that they actually had a DeLorean up there, and they were able to move it around on the stage a little bit. Obviously, that's kind of neat in its own little self, be able to have it be on some sort of conveyor or whatever to be able to make it move and go. Cool. At the end, when he came back to get Marty to take him into the future for what would be the sequel of the movies, to go talk to his kids or whatever. When they got into that DeLorean, him and Marty, they were able to lift that DeLorean up from the stage, turn it around and rotate it, like even upside down, turn it around to be able to shoot it to go into the future. And I was blown away by that. Like, how did they do that? I mean, they darkened everything. So whatever they did, you couldn't see. Obviously, they got something that they're doing, whether it's hydraulics or strings or something. But to be able to not only lift it up, but then to turn it and rotate it, like spin it around, to be able to do that, I was blown away by that. That's an incredible work for any type of stage production, let alone it on a cruise ship. Not even like cruise ships. Not that's not its number one features for a play. Like if you go to an opera house or something, they're set up and designed for it. That's the whole reason for their existence. A cruise ship's reason for existence is not to do a play. They just happen to have them on there. I was blown away that they were able to do that. Back to the Future was the musical was fantastic, and they even had him. I guess just to get you in the proper frame of mind for it on TV, that you could in your room watch Back to the Future. They had a Back to the Future channel, and it would just go play one, two, three, one, two, three. Just played it on a loop. We watched it pretty much every night. Selena likes Back to the Future. I like Back to the Future. Watch it every night. And two and three, which I had not watched a ton of before, I grew up more on just on one. I got to watch them a little bit more and appreciate them a little bit more too. And then they also had like a little bit behind the scenes of how they made the show on that TV channel. Like you'd watch number two, and then they would play that little behind the scenes thing, and then go to number three, and so on and so forth. So that was really cool. After the show was done, I left, and I regretted this, but I had to leave. And then later, apparently, the guy that played George McFly came out. He got to visit with his parents. His parents were there, and my dad like took a picture with him for them, him and his parents. And then they got to talk to him a little bit. I was like, oh man. And again, you had to reserve this. So we got it reserved for like Saturday at 3 o'clock. It was the last day, and the next day we were leaving. And I loved the play. I absolutely loved it. I thought they did a fantastic job with it. And I would love to see it again. Um, and but they also had Saturday morning, they had like a Q&A with the cast, which I would have loved to have been a part of, but I didn't want to do it before I had seen it because I didn't want any like spoilers, so I didn't. Had I would have seen it, I would now, especially after seeing it, I would have loved to have been a part of that Q&A. Oh well, whatever. If I ever go back on Star of the Seas, I'll be sure to go part of that Q&A, and definitely be sure to see it again. So that was Back to the Future. Love that. That was like, if I were to rank these shows, that's maybe 1B, and 1A is Torque, which I referred to earlier. Torque was amazing. We got in there just a little bit before it was starting, and it was packed. Now, Torque was the one that I referred to earlier, that I had made a reservation for it, but then it was gone. And I tried looking to get it, and it was sold out. I'm like, oh, great. When we got on the ship, we asked about it. That was one of the first things I asked the customer service about. And they sent me over to like where the karaoke place was. And I guess they had the reservations there. Talked to one of the guys. This guy that I talked to, he was actually Marty McFly, whoever that actor was, his understudy. And he played one of like Biff's gang. And he played also, I think, Marty McFly's uncle or something like that. Anyways, so he was in the cast, and he was able to tell me like what happened. I think one of the shows got canceled. That's why, but he was able to book us for another showing of Torque. I'm glad he did. I'm glad he did. Now, when we got there, as I said, um, we had reservation, but it was packed, and it was hard to find seats, but we did find some. And the guy that was there was like, "This is one of our most popular shows. It might be hard to find seats." Like, okay, I get that, but we did find some. Sat next to a family from Toronto, so that was nice. And it kind of starts with them just like popping up out of the water, like like they're mermaids. Like, whoa, where did they come from? And it is a whole like production of dancing, acrobats, diving into the water. It's amazing. It is absolutely amazing. And they have obviously their light show with it. I don't say light show, but yeah. It's different lights, and the way that the water is very interesting. Obviously, they have their pool of water, but that pool of water can also close, so they could be on top of it as well, and then they can open it up, and there's the water, and then there's like this, there's like a backstage almost, and from there there's a little stage that they can stand on and get into the water from there. But then also too, when they dive into the water, they can go back behind there, and kind of come and go as they please, just through that water. And there was times where it was dark and they had their lights on, and I want to say actually the majority of the time it was probably dark with the lights kind of coming through everywhere. Um, and here they are. I mean, they're just physically fit, jacked, ripped people, men and women both. And I'm just feeling fat and large from all the all the stuff I've been eating, all the junk food. Um, but it was still fun to watch, and I was just blown away by it. I had heard good things, and that was it. I was like, all right, you hear good things, but then when you see something live and you just feel the effects and the music, and you see what these guys are doing, this incredible talent that they have to be able to do it, I was blown away by it. And then you got these high divers too. I mean, there was one that was at one level, and then it went up from even a higher level than that. And they're diving at one point. I want to say probably every single performer, diver, whatever you want to call them, swimmer, all took at least one dive from that very top. And at one point, I kind of like looked away and kind of came back real quick, and I caught the very tail of it. The very top, like where the ceiling was, where there's a little hole, there was like a hole there, hole, I don't know, entrance, whatever you want to. And they took a dive from there straight down into the pool. And I just got the tail end of it. I didn't get, and I was like, wow, did he dive from all the way up there? Super incredible. Now, there was other Royal Caribbean ships that had this aqua show, but it was in the back of the ship and it was outside. This one was inside the Aquadome. As I mentioned, that's exactly what it is. It's a dome. It's in the front of the ship. It's a dome, and they have the Aqua show there. They also, during the day, will also kind of do some other things too, if need be. But, anyways, a lot of other Royal Caribbean ships, it was in the back and it was open, and they may have even been a little higher the boarding the where they jumped from. I'm not sure, but I guess one of the benefits to having it in the Aqua Dome as opposed to having it outside in the back is that sometimes, depending on if there was bad weather, if the ship was moving too bad or too windy, that could affect the show, and maybe they'd have to cancel it altogether. With it being up front inside of a dome, well, now that you don't have to worry about the weather, you don't have to worry about the wind. It's all enclosed. Nothing's going to affect it. And so they're still doing it. And yet, despite that, I mean, you're still on a moving ship, even though you don't feel it as much. But you're still on a moving ship, and they're still diving from 30, 40 feet up in the air into the water, and doing it just effortlessly. I mean, true professionals just effortlessly doing it. I was blown away by that show. That I left that show feeling that was like one of the best shows I'd ever seen at sea. That's how I felt. And then when I saw Back to the Future, the musical, I'm like, oh boy, this is right up there with it too. They're different. Obviously, one's going to be an acrobatic aqua show. The other one is a production musical. They're different, but they're both wonderful shows. Them two alone could be a reason to go on Star of the Seas, just to go see that live entertainment. Fantastic productions. Love them both. They were both high. That's why I say it's like 1A, 1B. Maybe I'll give Torque a slight little slight little edge over Back to the Future the musical, but even that it would be very slight. Yeah, so they you had a lot of a lot of good shows just in general. The comedian, the juggler, the live shows, the live music. The ice skating was fantastic too. So, but to me, those the top two performances: Back to the Future the musical and Torque. Great entertainment on Royal Caribbean Star of the Seas. All right, so that's entertainment. Let me move on now to just other activities and fun things that they have to do on the ship. On deck 17, depending if where was it? If you're on the middle elevators, there's two sets of elevators. One's up in the front, one's in the middle, and both of the elevators have you push the floor that you want to go to, the deck number you want to go to. It tells you what which elevator to go to, and there's usually like around I don't know, 10 to 12 different elevators up front, 10 different 12 different elevators in the middle of the ship. And it actually made it very nice to get where you need to go. Wasn't always crowded, wasn't always waiting a long time. Anyways, but the middle set, if you went all the way up to 17, took you. There was Cloud 17, which I don't remember what that was. I didn't really pay attention to what that was. I don't think that was a spa. I think that was like maybe just an area to go kind of relax at. But then they also had like a sports deck, and when you go out there outside, you go to the sports deck. It's a basketball court, and it's a pretty full size basketball court. One of the biggest basketball courts I'd seen on a ship too, like full size. But they also had when I remember going up there, they had people like throwing the football around. They also did other activities up there, soccer. They did dodgeball, which I should have played. I went up there and watched dodgeball. I didn't play it. I kind of was tempted to, but I didn't. And then when they played it again, I was kind of busy doing something else. So I never got to play it, but it was kind of fun. They did dodgeball, and I'm sure they did some other things too, basketball shootouts, tournaments, competitions, whatever. So there was the basketball uh, court from up there. And then from there, you could go out and then walk down. And as you walk down, there was a mini golf course there, a 9-hole mini golf course. I forgot the name that they put it, but I remember seeing like the theme of it. I don't know, wreckage or something like that. Like you see like a plane wreck, like different parts of a plane, maybe even a ship or something like that. But they had the mini golf course there. We got to play mini golf one night. It was actually the first at sea day, which we were actually it was the first formal night, in the dining room. I remember still being in like a collared shirt and tie, going to go play mini golf, and it was at night. It was like a little bit of a competition that they were having, and they had glow in the dark mini golf balls. If you hit it, like threw it down on the ground or hit it on something, it would light up and it would glow for you. So it made it easier to do it at night. It was me, Selena, my dad. We played, and I won. I was the first time I ever beat my dad at mini golf. Now, granted, the last time I played him, I was like, I don't know, 10 or 11 or something like that. But still, it was kind of cool to be able to win. And they gave me a little trophy of it, too. I don't know if you can see it right there. That's it. That trophy right there. I got it in the corner of my desk. They gave me a little trophy, which it was just us three. It wasn't like I was competing against a bunch of people, but the guy was nice enough, gave me a trophy, and I think my dad and Selena got like a silver and bronze little uh, gold medal, and not a gold medal, medal that you could wear, and I got that. I got that trophy up there. So there's the 9-hole mini golf. That's free of charge. We did it then when it was during that like little competition that they were have going on, but you could play it pretty much anytime. They had the golf sticks up and the golf sticks, the golf putters up front, and where you could get also your balls and have the ball return there, and um, scorecards they had there too. You could play it, pretty much anytime. Um, and I think we did play again later on. I just didn't keep score. We didn't keep score. We just kind of played for fun. I think I even played left-handed just to fool around a little bit. And then back there, so in the back of the ship there, they had that, and that mini golf course is right next to what was it? That eatery that I was talking about, Basecamp. But back there, there's also they called it Thrill Island, and with it they had some humongous water slides. Um, and their water slides were I want to say 5 of them, at least five, may have been more. There may have been more, but there was at least 5 of them, and you could see them from there. You had to like walk up to get to them. which was a little bit of a hike there to do it. And they all had different names, and their names depending on the color, that's how you could tell when you looked at them. So there was some that weren't as big, and then some were there a little bit bigger. I want to say one of them was called Storm Surge. Another was Hurricane Hunter. Um, can't remember the other names. But anyways, so they had those. I thought about going up on them the day we went to Coco Key, and I was already in my bathing suit. But I had some Aqua shoes on. I didn't feel like taking them off. You had to take them off, and then you had to for one of them, if you were going down like face first, you had to have this sled-looking thing that you held on to. I don't know, made of foam or whatever. Yeah, and you do that. I just didn't feel like grabbing one. I could have. I just didn't feel like it. So I never went down the water slides. Um, but there was that, and then also back there and under Thrill Island, in addition to all those water slides, they had what's called Flowrider, which I think is kind of a staple on Royal Caribbean ships, but it's basically like a simulation of surfing. I'm not a surfer. I could have maybe tried it, but there was a lot of people there, and I didn't feel like doing it. I didn't feel like doing it, so I didn't do it. But back there, they also have what's called the Hideaway, and down there they had an infinity pool, which we were able to go in the infinity pool, look out. We were at Coco Key when I went. The temperature was nice, beautiful view back there, and I enjoyed that. And of course, there's other pools that are around, pools, hot tubs. They have all those, plenty of those. Some aren't too deep, and they actually have like chairs in the water that you can kind of like enjoy. One is near what's called Swim and Tonic, where you can swim up to the bar and get something to drink. Um, yeah, so there's plenty of pools and plenty of pools and hot tubs there. Um, to enjoy if you're I'm not a humongous water guy. If I am going to go in the water, I mean, I guess I prefer a pool over the ocean or the beach. But even then, I don't go too often. But they're there, and if you like it, they're definitely there to enjoy. If you were to go, oh well, and sticking on that same area, not far from there, they had a rock climbing wall, which I had done before. When I went on Explorer of the Seas, I didn't go on it this time, but I did go when I was on Explorer of the Seas. I do enjoy rock climbing. I just didn't go for whatever reason. I just didn't do it. A lot of kids there, a lot of people there. Maybe that's why. But there that is there, and that is included. And then near that, they have what's called Crown's Edge, and that one is a little obstacle course slash zip line kind of thing. That one needed a reservation, and it cost like $40 to do, so I didn't do that one. And then let's see what else. They did have a cornhole toss over there. That was by like where you could get those milkshakes right outside of there when you kind of like come out from the elevators and you go out the doors. They have a cornhole toss there. That's more in the back, and then towards the front when you get out of the elevators, there's a few different ping pong tables there, table tennis. Never got to play. There's always someone playing, so never got to play. I did do the cornhole toss a little bit. There was that. And then let's see what else. Oh, and then I told you about Surfside, where that eatery was. Now that was very much designed for kids. They had a carousel there, merry-go-round type of thing that kids could ride on. I don't ever recall seeing any adults on there, so I don't think adults are allowed. But maybe they are. They just never were. I don't know. But they had that. In that area, again, I mentioned they had the eatery. They had the candy shop. They'd have like a other little shop where you could get like I don't know suntan lotion or something like that. But then they also had an arcade in there too, and the arcade looked pretty nice with all the lights and fun for kids, all that stuff that appeals to kids. And I used to love all that stuff when I was a kid. When I growing up at an arcade, I'd play things like The Simpsons or Ninja Turtles or something like that, where there was a storyline to the video game. Now I don't really see that. You see some racing games, you see games where you're trying to win prizes. That's kind of why I don't see a whole lot of like storied arcade games anymore like I did when I was growing up. But if you're a kid and you like arcade games, I'm sure you'd love that. They had the arcade there too. They had a splash pad over there. I know my friend, their little boy loved the splash pad. It wasn't really a pool necessarily, which worked out, I guess, well for him because he loves being in the water but can't really swim too well. But in the splash pad, there's all types of things that you can climb over and everything. You got water shooting out all over the place. You get splashed by buckets of water and that type of atmosphere, that type of thing that kids love. And I'm sure when I was a kid, I loved that too. As an adult, don't have an interest, but as a kid, they do. So that's over there in that Surfside. Um, so that's fun. They had the arcade there too. And then if you were to go back to remember me talking about Playmakers at Sports Bar and Grill, if you were to walk through there, and there was I forgot to mention they even have a place where you could just rent out a private area for yourself to watch the game and get some food. At that point, if you rent it out, I don't know if you have to pay for the food or if that's or you still got to pay for that or not. I don't know. But you walk through there, that's where eventually you get to that ice rink where they have the show Soul, and they're not always doing the show Soul. So they actually have certain times, not always, but certain times where you can reserve being able to ice skate on the rink. And if you do that, I think you can do it for like 20 minutes. I think you reserve for like 20 minutes, and you have to wear like long pants and socks. So there's a certain dress code, and then there's certain things you can't do while you're out there. You got to be following the rules that they have, but you can ice skate on a cruise ship. That's one of the Royal Caribbean's the only one I know of that has an ice rink on it, so you can do that too. And that's again where they had the show Soul. And oh, I forgot to mention this. Is going back to Torque, but Torque, amazing show that it was. I told you about all the acrobats and the high diving. I also forgot that they also had motorcycles. They had a big ball, and they had a motorcycle go in and drive around the thing. That was super impressive. And then they added a second one, and they were both doing it and crisscrossing each other. That was amazing too. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. I know I've moved on since then, but I at least go back and still tell you about that too. So definitely worth seeing. So a lot of good entertainment on the ship, a lot of good activities on the ship, things to do, have fun on that, and then just some miscellaneous things. Whether or not you consider them an activity or something fun to do, I don't know. But they had I've referred to Central Park, a nice little place on deck 8 that you walk through, and you kind of walk and it's not a straight line. You kind of go back and forth a little bit. And throughout there, you'll see Chops Grill, you'll see the sushi place, you'll see the cafe. At one lounge that has where I said they had live jazz music. There's some stores there, watches, perfume, bags, stuff like that. And from there, there's an entrance that you could walk down. You go in there, walk down, you're into the Royal Promenade. Um, so they have Central Park, and there's a bunch of greenery all over the place. At night, it's really pretty to walk through and see. But there's a bunch of greenery. I'm sure it took them. Uh, it was a lot of work to put all that in there. I don't think they were for real. Um, and they had like umbrellas on the end. So if it's raining, you could take an umbrella and use that to walk through if you wanted to. I thought that was a neat little idea. And they had sounds being piped in, like you'd hear birds, you'd hear crickets, stuff like that, to make you feel like you're in a park. So really nice place to just go and chill if you wanted to. Grab something to eat if you like, listen to some music. Nice little place, and that was kind of not far from where Surfside was. Just the elevators were kind of in between there, or the doors for them, anyways. So there was that. I mentioned the Hideaway. The Hideaway, that's where I went to that infinity pool. And that area specifically, the Hideaway there is for 18 and older. Now, it's not like it's 18 and older and you're walking into some adult mature video and people are topless or anything like that. Women are topless. Not like that. It's just there's no kids. And it's kind of a nice little break because this ship does have a lot of kids. This ship is geared for families. It is geared for kids. I saw a ton of kids on the ship. If you feel like you need to get away from kids, maybe you still love them, but you just need to get away from them for a little bit. You can go to that Hideaway, and no one there is going to be under 18. You can go there. They had a few different hot tubs, which I remember seeing those hot tubs being open till late into the evening, which you don't always see. A lot of times they kind of close that up kind of earlier. But the hot tubs are open there. They had that infinity pool. They have a bar down there. They have places that you can sit, look out the back of the ship because this is in the back. Even these big beds that you can reserve if you wanted to. I don't know how much they cost, but I'm sure if you wanted to just lay out and look at the back of the ship, that's a nice place to do it. It might be worth it for you, however much that is. So that was the Hideaway. And then they had another place that's by the Aquadome called the Lookout. So the Aquadome is up front. The Aquadome market is to the right of that on the starboard side. You had the seafood specialty restaurant on port side on the left side. And then in front of that, you had an area where you can go. You walk down. There There was a bar there. You can get some drinks, but then plenty of places to sit, look out, and it's all glass. I mean, it's just all glass surrounding you. So you have a beautiful view of the sea or whatever port you're at. You have a gorgeous front view of the ship as well as everything that's surrounding you. So that's the lookout. I looked at it. I loved it, and it wasn't until later I'm like, wow, I didn't spend a whole lot of time there, which I should have. I mean, I was already in the front of the ship where my room was, and it was a nice place to go. Um, I didn't spend as much time there as I should have. So there's the lookout. Definitely very nice. I did mention to you there's a lot of different bars all over. There's Swim and Tonic, Lime and Coconut, Schooner's Bar, and just everywhere you go. I mean, there's plenty of places to get. And I don't know if they all serve the same thing because I think one of my friends went to one place to get a drink, but they didn't have that specific one. Maybe at that specific bar they had more like whiskey and bourbon and that type of thing, not necessarily a fruity drink. Where you get the fruity drink, you might not be able to get a shot of or whiskey or bourbon, something like that. Um, so there's a lot of bars all around. I did refer to the Royal Promenade decks 5 and 6 with a variety of shops that were open when you're at sea. There's like a Royal Caribbean store where you can get Royal Caribbean swag, stuff from Star of the Seas, Royal Caribbean, all kinds of shirts and uh, keychains, sweaters. Um, I even saw Messi jerseys, the soccer player Messi. I saw that there. So they had that, and outside of there, there was like watches and handbags. Down a little ways, they had jewelry store, they had perfume store, and all those type of things in the Royal Promenade. In addition to the pizza place, the karaoke, the dueling pianos, the Pro Cafe, the Italian restaurant, the specialty restaurant, a place for live music, a couple places for live music. That was all in the Royal Promenade. Real nice place to hang out and go. And even at the Aquadome, as I mentioned, they don't have a play all the time going on. They did do some other activities there. We did watch one. It was like Battle of the Sexes, where they had like boys and girls, and it was kids involved, so it wasn't like adult. It was more geared for kids. So they might have a competition of them doing a hula hoop, see who lasts longer or whatever stuff like that. They would have activities there at the Aquadome. Um, they had also where that adult. I refer to this. They had that adult comedy area. They also had art over there too. They had some art auctions if you like those. I did see a little tiny place like as you walk over a couple places where you could shop to get the Playmakers. I saw a little bit of art there too. But yeah, they had an art auction thing up there, as well as Zoltar. I don't know if you remember Zoltar, that fortune telling thing that was on the movie Big. They had one of those there too. I thought that was kind of funny. And then they had a place that was right near um, where that big sphere was, where you could walk up the stairs to Pro Cafe. Next to that, between that and customer service, they had this thing called Ocean Eye. And Ocean Eye, it just looked like art, kind of its own like little neat little thing. Looked very cool. But then when I come to find out, it is actually people taking like a picture of your eye, your pupil, and turning that into art. And it's like, oh, those are human eyes that I'm looking at. Oh, that's interesting. Uh, it kind of sounds like a little weird, but it actually is kind of cool to look at. So they had that. They I did tell you that they played Back to the Future on a loop um, in the room. That was kind of cool. And then also their gym, if you like to go out on a ship and work out, they had the biggest gym I'd ever seen on a ship. And right outside the gym, there's a track that starts. It's on deck 5, right outside of where like Promenade is. If you go around that track that goes around the deck, I think it was 2.5 times you've covered a mile. We did that a couple times. My dad did it like almost every morning. And then at the very back, there was a nice view of the back of the ship too. And to me, it was like one of the closest I had been because it was on deck 5 outside to the water, like being able to see. Usually, when I'm looking out the back of a ship and looking down and seeing the wake of the ship, I'm kind of up on top. Here, I'm on deck 5, so I'm only 50, 60 feet above the water as opposed to 100 feet. So it was kind of a neat little view. But yeah, that gym that was one of the biggest gyms. They had everything. They even had a machine there that I particularly like using here that I only could go to one place to have it. One Planet Fitness has it. The one Planet Fitness that's right next to me doesn't. I have to go to another city to use that machine. They had that there. Now I'll be honest, I did not go to the gym on this on this entire trip. I went there once at the beginning because that's where our muster drill was. That's where we went for that. And at that point, there was a few people that were already working out. Like we just got on the ship. I go on the ship and go immediately to food. Some people are going on the ship and immediately working out. Like, wow, okay, that's hardcore. They love it. I do it because I want to stay healthy. I don't do it because I love it. Like some people like really love working out, like they're gym rats. If you're a gym rat and that's what you do, hey, you'll love this gym and that track too. That was really nice. And then I got to do it one more time when I did the video live. That was at the end on the last day. I booked in the the first day I went there for the muster drill. The last day I went there just to show people my YouTube live. So there was just miscellaneous things kind of that I took note of, wanted to mention to you about. A lot of things to talk about. I will mention that there were a few cons, in my opinion, that maybe I didn't care for, or because to me, there's no ship that's perfect, there's no cruise line that's perfect. As much as I loved Royal Caribbean and I love Star of the Seas, I will say that I do love it. It was a fantastic cruise. It was a fantastic vacation, but there's some things I didn't particularly care for. I'll start with basketball. It's cool that they had a basketball court, but they didn't always have basketballs. They only allowed you to play basketball at certain times. So when I went there to watch dodgeball, I watched it. I didn't get to play. Then afterwards, I'm shooting the ball around a little bit, and they were going to do soccer or something eventually. So they were like, "Well, we got to take the basketball away." Like, oh, okay. So I gave them the basketball, and they left. Like, I can only play basketball when you want me to play basketball. That kind of stinks. And some guy was kind of kicking around a soccer ball, and he was just doing that. Like, I'm still there. Like, it's just me and him. You could pass me the ball. We could kind of do this together. Nope. And one time the ball came to me, and I'm like, all right, cool. So I kicked it back to him, and then he just did his own thing. I'm like, fine, whatever. So wasn't too thrilled about that. Like it's like I can only play basketball when you want me to play basketball. Wasn't too fond of that. And then that Crown Edge that I told you about, and this thing, I'll be honest, I really was upset about this. I thought that looked pretty cool to do. You kind of get harnessed in and tied up, and then you kind of walk and along and kind of swing your way out. It only looks like it takes you maybe a couple minutes to do it. But they wanted you to have like a reservation. Like, oh, okay, because I came up there like, I want to sign up. I want to do this. I need a reservation. Again with these reservations. All right, fine. How do I do it? Where do I go for that? Like, yeah, and it's $40. Like $40 for literally like a minute worth of fun? No, no, that irritated me. It's like I'm already paying an arm and a leg to get on this ship to begin with. This should be included. This thing that's 1 minute worth of fun. It takes you 1-2 minutes to go around it. No, I shouldn't have to pay $40 for that. Just like paying. It costs a lot to get in that hot air balloon on Coco Key, and even that it wasn't running. It's like, and even that you're only up there 10-15 minutes. Like, no, you shouldn't have to pay that much for this. Um, so I didn't care for that. And then as regards Seoul, that ice skating, I love the show. I thought the skaters they have fantastic skating skills. Fantastic skating skills. Their people skills left something to be desired, though. So they use them to be the ones to like check in when you do like open skating and you book it for 20 minutes. They're the ones that kind of do it. And I remember we went up there and Selena tried talking to one of the skaters that he had one of the solo acts, and she's like, "Oh, he did really good." She was trying to like compliment and talk to him. He just thank you, smiles and leaves. And no one was willing to talk. I mean, they would accept the compliment, and then that was it. They wouldn't talk with you. They wouldn't, and they're like kind of barking out orders and rules to the people on the ice skate, which I get that. It means part of their job. But it's like, all right, you have fantastic skating skills, but you're being put in a role. You are not a performer anymore. Now you are the face of the company. You are interacting with the customers. You got to do better than this. Okay, I'm glad that you're at least smiling. Good. But you got to interact a little bit. You got to be willing to talk to these people if you're going to be put in front and you're now the face of the company. Didn't care for that too much either. That kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Selena was like, whatever. That just maybe that's their culture and they're just, like, maybe it could be the case. she'll give them a little bit more grace than I was. But and I'm not saying that they're bad people or anything like that. Just I didn't that rubbed me the wrong way. Like if we're trying to be friendly with you and talk with you as a staff, you better darn well talk back and be friendly back. So that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I did mention that there wasn't a ton of storage space in the room. Um, we had the closet, which was nice, but there was not like shelves or drawers really to put anything in. So I didn't really couldn't really unpack anything. I let Selena have the closet. I put like a couple things in there, like hung up, maybe my dress clothes, but that was kind of about it. I didn't really have. I was kind of out of the suitcase um, pretty much the whole week. And then I got kind of burnt out with the whole making reservation things, and I get why they do it. I mean, if you have 6,500 people, that kind of helps keep everything organized. If you just do like first come first serve for everything, there's a good chance you are going to miss out on some things. But you're doing first come first serve anyways, just to make the reservation. And the fact that we had a reservation at one time with something and then lost it was like, oh, great. And now am I not going to be able to see it? And I'm glad I did. I was able to get it back eventually, but just the fact that you had to make reservations for everything seemed like too many things I had to make reservations for. And you could only do it once. Like if you saw Back to the Future on Saturday at 3 o'clock, which is what we did, that was it. You couldn't make a reservation for the Tuesday night show or whatever. If you saw Soul once, that was it. You can only see these things one time. Um, and I get it. I mean, I get why they're doing it. They're not performing every night and give a chance for everyone to kind of see it. I get that, but I got a little bit burned out with making all the reservations. Not that it affected me too much, but I noticed there was no pools in the middle of the ship. There couldn't be because a lot of the times the middle of the ship was kind of open. So beyond the side, it was kind of just a little awkward, I guess you could say, if you're on one side and you want to go to the pool. And they didn't have an outdoor movie screen, which again, it didn't bother me too much, but I know some in my party were like kind of bummed about that. I mean, yeah, whatever, it is what it is. And then there weren't a ton of like TV options. Like I would go through there. There wasn't a lot of channels, and there were some movies, but you had to pay for them. Back to the Future was free, and so that's all we watched pretty much. And maybe we turned on like a nature channel or something to watch kind of like a nature documentary. But for the most part, we just basically had Back to the Future to watch. Thankfully, I did have like I had a Wi-Fi package, a basic Wi-Fi package for a device, and me and Selena could split it. So not at the same time, but like I could have it, and if she wanted, I could give it to her, and if she wasn't using it, I could take it back, that type of thing, which is kind of cool. I guess good to know. On the app, you can text each other without having to use Wi-Fi, which is good. You can message people on the app, so that's nice. Um, but yeah, there wasn't a ton of TV shows or stuff to watch on the TV besides Back to the Future, which I like, but sometimes you want a little bit of variety too. Um, and I did mention the elevators. Actually, that's kind of a pro. I mean, for the most part, the elevators were kind of good actually. Maybe at the most we waited like 5 minutes for an elevator. Wasn't too bad. Um, but you gotta get used to like you go and you click floor deck 11, and then it tells you to go to elevator J. Like okay, and you go wait for that. One time we went in the elevator, there was a guy with a piano in there. He was playing a piano. I thought that was unique. He was sitting there serenading us as we were going. That was the only one time that happened. But the elevators for the most part weren't too bad. Um, yeah, so yeah, I guess that does not really count. It's more of a miscellaneous thing, I suppose. Yeah, I think at the most I waited like maybe 5 minutes. Although on the day that everyone was leaving, I couldn't get on the elevator. We had to walk the stairs to do that, which wasn't too bad. I mean, going down the stairs is a lot better than trying to go up the stairs. Yeah. Um, and like the bathrooms, I thought were kind of interesting. Like you'd wave your hand in front of the sensor and it would open the door, and then for like the handicap bathroom part of it, do the same thing. And that was so a lot of touchless stuff, which was nice. The water was motion sensor. The soap was too, and then you could get a paper towel, so that was nice. And they had hand washing stations. I forgot to mention this actually. One of the miscellaneous things I wanted to mention. I forgot about it, but they had hand washing stations where the food was, especially at the buffet. You walked into the buffet, you walked through like a thing of hand washing stations first. On both sides, they had probably like a good dozen hand washing stations. And I'm a humongous proponent of washing your hands. And it's a pet peeve of mine when people don't wash their hands, especially after using the bathroom. And then they go and touch doorknobs and money and shake people's hands and they're spreading that. Like, dude, there's reasons why it says wash your hands. There's a reason. You are spreading nasty germs. Stop doing that. And it's a pet peeve of mine when people don't wash their hands. Well, they took it kind of serious. and they would have these hand washing stations. And it wasn't until later on in the cruise I noticed they had them at other areas too, like where Surfside Eatery was, and where Aquadome Market was. They had them other places too, but it was more announced at the buffet. You walk in there, like I said, they have different hand washing stations both sides, and then they had a song playing about washing your hands. It was kind of a catchy little song that is kind of geared towards kids. I mean, it sounded like you would hear it on a kids show kind of thing, like Dora the Explorer or something, or a Disney show or something. It kind of sounded like that, but it was for everyone. And then they had two people that were there singing and dancing with it to get you to wash your hands. So I really appreciated the hand washing stations. That was good. So that was really nice. Finally, I'm going to give out some shout outs to people. And I'll start with those two people that sung and danced. The one guy, his name was Edgaurdo, and the girl, her name was Princess. I mean, they had some nice energy to them, always smiling, always singing and dancing. The one girl, Princess, I kind of joke with her. She was, that one day that we were at a different table, she was the assistant waitress at that. Her name was Princess. And I joke with her. I'm like, you're on the wrong cruise line. Your name is Princess. You're on Royal Caribbean. But she just was full of energy and always super nice. They both were nice. They both were high energetic, always dancing. And it kind of, and they would dress up in like costume too, like a tomato or something, some kind of food costume as they were singing and dancing, trying to get people to wash their hands. So I give a shout out to Eduardo and Princess. They did a really good job. Ravi, our room steward, he always kept the room clean. He asked us, would you rather me come in the morning or would you rather me come in the evening? So Royal Caribbean was not a 2 day or 2 time a day cleaning. Some cruise lines, I grew up always used to be, they'd come twice, one in the morning, one in the evening. I guess it just once. We said whatever. So he picked in the evening. But then as time went on, he kept getting earlier and earlier, which was fine. I didn't care. As long as it got clean. And he did a good job cleaning it, emptying the small little trash in the bathroom. Yeah, so I give a shout out to Ravi. Can't remember where he was from. There was one waitress that we saw a lot. Her name was Natalya. Saw her quite a few times. She was always really nice too. And then and in the dining room there was another young lady from Guyana named Kimberly, who was always really friendly with us. She'd come up, talk to us, uh, talk about being at home and the food that she looked forward to eating. Her mom's home cooking. Yeah, she was really nice. And then um, our wait staff that we got majority of the time, Nhors and Emmanuel, they did a great job. Super friendly, super nice, super helpful. Really appreciate them as our wait staff. Even though we were on any time, we got them pretty much almost every time. Um, Really good duo as regards of wait staff. And then at the Pro Cafe, there was a girl. Her name there was Steffy, and this girl, I don't know. She was like a cyborg. I don't know if she ever went to bed. Like that place is open 24 hours, and no matter what time I went to get something, morning, afternoon, or evening, she was there. Like, do you ever sleep? Do you ever get to get off a shift? You were like always here, and she's always there, smiling, super nice, and just waving and handing out cookies and whatever else. It's just super nice girl. So that was Steffi. And I'll even give a shout out to the cruise director. He went by Dan Dan. His name was Dan. He just went by Dan Dan. He was really funny. I really enjoyed it. I think he was filling in. I forgot if the guy, maybe the normal cruise director, was off for a bit or was sick, or I forgot what exactly happened. But I'm pretty sure that he wasn't the regular guy. He was filling in, but he did a really good job filling in. He had a lot of good energy, but not over the top, which I've seen some people. He had a lot of he was like I said, a lot of funny jokes to him and everything, and not like cringy dad jokes either. Like he would when he was hosting a show, he made it fun, he made it lively. So I'll give a shout out to him too. All these uh, people that made our vacation very memorable, very enjoyable. They did a great job, and appreciate the hard work they do. And they work so hard on those ships and all that so that we can have a nice vacation. So definitely a good shout out to all of them. All right, so I'm over 2 hours, and if you are still here listening to this, thank you, thank you so much for sticking around for over 2 hours listening to me talk about my experience on Royal Caribbean Star of the Sea. I hope now that we're at the end of the video, this has whetted your appetite, and now you want to go. I hope that is what this video has done for you. I loved my vacation on there. Even though the cons that I went over, they weren't the worst things in the world. Some things can be a little bit more bothersome than some others, but none of that would I be looking at it like, oh, I'm never going on Star of the Sea because, they took away the basketball. No, this was a fantastic ship with a fantastic crew, fantastic food, a lot of saying that word fantastic a lot because it's true. It was. I loved it, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think you would too. So if you got to this point, I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with others. I would love to be able to help you get on the ship. I would love to help your family, your friends, your neighbors, your coworkers, whoever get on the ship. I would love to be able to do it. That is, these cruises, they're my specialty. That's what I love. So if you would like to, there's a variety of ways you can reach out to me. Please feel free to do it any one of those ways. One, social media, as I mentioned. You could reach out to me and send me a direct message on Instagram or Facebook. You can also look at the pictures I posted about it. It's both the same. They're Jay's Paradise Travels, Jays. There's no apostrophe in there. Jay's Paradise Travels. You can look me up, follow me on Instagram, Facebook. In addition to subscribing to this channel, that way you can follow me along as I do my travels and post on social media. You could also email me if you don't want to deal with social media. You want to just email me directly. My email address is j.paradise_travels@gmail.com. That's jay dot paradise_travels@gmail.com. You can email me. Also, if you're watching this on YouTube, down below in the description, you're going to see different links to different things. One of them is my calendar, where you can click on that, book an appointment with me, and we could talk either on the phone or on Zoom and be able to discuss your vacation needs one-on-one. There's that way. And there's also my website. Click on that. If you don't feel like talking to me right away, you could just reach out to me that way too. I mean, either way, we're going to eventually talk too. But I would love to be able to help you get on a trip. I'm trying to make this world a happier place, one vacation at a time, and trying to build up my business, get my name out there. So again, please feel free to share it with others. Like the video, subscribe, make some comments. Tell me your thoughts on Royal Caribbean or Star of the Seas or any trip that you've been on or anything that I've discussed. Let me hear your comments, good or bad. When I say bad, I'm not saying I want you to bash me or bash any of the things. I'm just saying if you had, maybe you had a con, maybe you didn't care for the basketballs being taken away too. I don't know, whatever. Something like that. If you want to leave a comment on that, love to hear it. Love to hear your experiences as well. And so feel free to do it. All that stuff is what podcasters need to keep their podcast going. And again, myself trying to build up my business, get my name out there for all to know about, and I'd love to be able to be your travel agent and anyone else's too. So yeah, so thank you again for listening to all this. If you've lasted with me for 2 hours, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it, and I look forward to talking with you again another time soon. Take care. Bye bye.